So for this one, we're going to go super simple because it really does help to have small openings and small petals, because we're going to be dipping it into the glue, into the Mod Podge to actually fill in between the wires for the petals. And if you make them too large, it won't work. You can see I had a sample petal that I was trying to make, and it dipped into the glue and it just would not stretch the whole way across. Something a lot smaller works a lot better. So uh, do be careful against making something too large for this, because the smaller really does work a lot better. Um, we are going to be working with just about a foot length of wire, and you want a pretty small wire. We're working with about a 24 gauge here, and gauge is just like an instrument to tell you how thick the wire is. So you can see this is very easily bendable with just my hands. I don't really need to have the tools in order to manipulate this, which is really what you're looking for. It'll work with something even smaller if you have that, or if you have a thicker wire and you really want to make something big, you can. You just might need a few layers of your glue and a little bit of thickener to it. So we are going to complete our wire flower in just a single length of wire, so no wire cutters are really needed. What we're going to do is form our petals, and they're just going to be a loop, and then you're going to twist it off at least a couple of times, and then you will use that next bit of wire, make another loop, and twist it off a few more times. Something to be aware of with wire when you're working with it is it does have what's called kind of a memory. So if you were to unwind this, say, like this, you can see it's kinked in a way that it was not before. So when you're working with wire, it's helpful to kind of go with your first movement and go with your first way that you're rolling it or manipulating it. And you can see I'm twisting against the direction that I wrapped in. So when I made a loop here, the bottom part is crossing underneath. So I'm going to twist in this direction to really close off and hold that back wire in place. So I've got 4 right now. It honestly kind of looks like a little 4-leaf clover. You can make as many petals as you want. Usually something pretty easy, simple is about 5 or 6. So we'll go for 5 and then finish up. So we can manipulate it so that it's stretching out. And what we're going to do with a little bit of this extra wire is wrap it around the center just so that it holds everything in place. A little bit with our length as well. You do want to leave some length as a stem, partially because it is nice to look at and it gives you a little stem to place, but also partially because it's going to really help you when it's time to dip. It gives you a handle essentially so that you can dip the whole flower at once. So we're going to leave that. And then if you want, if yours don't already have it from a little bit of moving around, you gently give your petals just a little bit of a curve so that they feel a little bit more 3D, a little bit more active than just a flat petal. So here is our base. Here's our wire. You can see they're a little bit curved if you look at it from the side. Now we're going to dip. So I've got some Mod Podge just in this small bowl here, and if you have ever done bubble wands, this will be very familiar to you. You are kind of just dipping and really trying to coat it as much as possible. And the big thing is you want it to create a film that covers. So you can see there's two that did that, and you can see that that's there, but there's three more that did not. So we'll go back in and really focus in on covering those. And sometimes it's, you have to manipulate the bowl around to see where you can get it all submerged. And there's one last petal. So I'm kind of pulling it up very gently from the edge to keep it from bursting. But there we are as our piece for right now, and we are going to set it to the side to dry. It's super helpful if you happen to have a scrap piece of cardboard or styrofoam that you can stick the stem in so that it'll dry and won't sit on a plate and then dry to the plate. Oh no, I popped it. But you can also just set it on a plate and just move it around every now and then. This particular Mod Podge that you're going to get in your kit is a glossy finish, so you're welcome to leave it as is. You'll get a lovely clear finish once it dries, but once it dries, I also encourage you to go back over with a few strokes of a thin, ideally will give you kind of a stained glass effect, but a pretty thin nail polish will give you that color. So we're just going to set this over here. Let it dry. So we'll be back to color it in a little bit. Everyone, and welcome to our Get Creative from Suffolk Public Library for the month of July. We are going to be making little wire flowers out of primarily this just like aluminum craft wire and a bit of glue. We're actually going to be using Mod Podge because it's thicker than glue, and then you can decorate it with paints, nail polishes, anything you'd like to color it with to make a lovely little forever flower. So let's jump in. I'll tell you all about our supplies that we're going to need. As a reminder, if you are looking for supplies, you want to do this at home, there's a limited number of supply kits that are available if you register through Suffolk Public Library's calendar, and you'll get a length of wire, a bit of the glue, and then a randomized color of nail polish to give you a little bit of something to color with. If you aren't able to get one of those kits, all of these supplies are pretty easy, and you don't necessarily have to have as big of a bottle of Mod Podge as I do. So we'll get into it. Alright, we're back. It took a little bit of time to dry. Most of these I let them just dry overnight, and we are ready to decorate. Now you can see this Mod Podge has a glossy finish, so you can definitely tell where it still has that Mod Podge in it versus like this one that popped. Like I said earlier, it's definitely helpful to have something that is a little bit smaller that you're actually that you're dipping. So this is probably about the biggest that I would go because you do get a little bit of warping and it's harder to finish painting it and everything without destroying the thin layer of glue. So something smaller, the size or smaller for the petals at least, tends to work pretty well. So that's, about the size of a fingernail or so. we're just going to use some nail polish today to decorate them. You'll get a little bit of nail polish in your kits if you register, but you can feel free to use what you have at home, use what you can find around at a drugstore. It's pretty easy to find, and you can get a lot of really interesting and unique colors. We are going to be applying it pretty thin, and you want to be really gentle because it can go like that. Yeah, so you want to be really, really gentle because otherwise you'll pop your, for lack of a better word, pop the bubble. So what I'm going to do is get a lot more here on the brush, and I'm just going to kind of dab it and really focus it on where the actual wire is, and then do my best to not press down on the actual glue portion. So as I've been painting, this one keeps popping on me, but that's alright. We still have a bit of it. It still is definitely thicker than we would have just the wire. So we're going to make it a little bit of a feature that it's, just the outside portions of it, and give it kind of a nice fun pop of color. Maybe I'll see if we can include a little blooper reel of all of the pops on me. But you are welcome to do a second dip if you really want it of the Mod Podge and see if that helps. From what I've heard, also wood glue works, is a little bit more stable for this, if you want that filled in look. Let's see, look how lovely that one is. Too bad we have to pop it so that it matches all of the rest of them. It is a little bit more easy to fill in without popping if you kind of drop a ton of paint from your brush onto it rather than kind of trying to traditionally paint. And then I'm just going to cover up my center here so that it doesn't just look like a tangle of wires. So you can totally do some different things, some different colors, or you can make kind of a fun wire flower of type. Don't look at the back, I haven't covered the back yet. So I hope you have at least some fun with it. If you want to see more, do more, we will be doing this one in person as well. We have some little bit harder stuff. We'll be working with resin. We just can't really distribute resin to you guys for at-home use. So if you want to come join us in person, we are happy to have you, and we'll see you again next time for the next project. Alright, so we're back. Everything has dried. We're just starting to get into the decorating. Now, these are very delicate, even once they've dried. You can see it's easy to pop your layer of Mod Podge. You're welcome to dip another layer and let that completely dry. That'll help a little bit. But even as you're decorating, you want to be really careful. So this is another reason that you want to make your design pretty small. So instead of placing the brush right on the center of the petal, we're actually going to nudge it along the top or the sides where the wire is and where it can strengthen. And then you're just going to really load up the paint there. And you want to have quite a bit on the brush so that you don't have to press down as much on the petal. And you'll just let that dry. The good thing about using nail polish is how quickly it's going to dry. And I'm going to go ahead, since I've got a little bit of time, cover all of my wires too. And from the back side.